This video is about the 100 Years' War. The 100 Years' War was a series of military conflicts between different parties. There was the English royal house, the French royal house, and inside France, the Armagnacs and Burgundians. It should be mentioned that it was only in hindsight called the 100 Years' War by historians. Most of these historians date the war from 1337 to 1453. To the background, there was an Anglo-French connection with deep roots. William the Conqueror, William of Normandy, conquers England and the Norman rule started. In 1154, the house of Plantagenet, originated from Anjou in the heart of France, ascended to the English throne. And the conflict between the English and the French kings becomes very clear with a look at the 12th century. The English king was the largest landowner in France, and as such he was a vassal to the French king. But as kings, both were equal. In the 13th century, the French kings could push the English influence nearly out of France. English possessions were only in the south, around a few provinces, around Bordeaux, a few provinces of Gascony. And by the way, that is where the baked beans come from, which should not be missing from any English breakfast. From 1328 onwards, there was a conflict of succession in France. The last Capetian died, and Philip de Valois became Philip IV of France. Later then, Edward III of England also claimed the French throne. The hostilities began earlier. France supported Scotland in the Scottish War of Independence and raided English ships and ports. But then there was a diplomatic affair. A mortal enemy of the French king, Robert d'Artois, arrived in England, and the French king demanded, from his point of view, from his vassal, to extradite Robert d'Artois. Edward III of England said, "No way, mate, we're equals, nobody will be extradited." So war could go on. Then there was the Arrière-Ban, French mobilization to seize Edward's possessions. Edward then claimed the French throne later, and through this he also proclaimed himself French king, and through this the lilies come into the royal crest. There was fighting firstly in the English Channel, Gascony, Flanders, the English coast, and then the war became serious. The Battle of Crécy, legendary, a decisive victory of Edward III. The English could also take Calais, which should remain English even after the war. The Black Prince, the Prince of Wales, landed in the south and won the Battle of Poitiers, could take the French king Jean II prisoner. There was then a peace. Edward renounced his claim to the French throne, Jean II was released, and Edward gained lots of territories. The French king, Charles V, resumed fighting, retook the territories, and the first phase of the 100 Years' War ended in 1386 for a while. That should not last too long, and the second phase started with a French internal conflict. There was a civil war between the Armagnacs, supporters of the royal house of Valois, and the Burgundians. The Burgundians formed alliance with England, and so they had the upper hand. Decisive English victory in the Battle of Azincourt. Furthermore, the English could capture vast parts of France. Then there was a Treaty of Troyes, declaring that England V will be heir to the French throne. It looked like everything is sorted. However, England V of England died, and also the French king died. And then the French said, right, we can start again. Now the second phase was on. The English could capture northern France and laid siege on Orléans. And here now we have the Jeanne d'Arc in Orléans who turned the war around. She promised the French king to be crowned in Reims, and that happened. Charles VII was crowned in Reims in 1429. But Jeanne d'Arc was betrayed, handed over to the English, and then burned as a heretic. The Treaty of Arras then ended the English-Burgundian alliance. The Burgundians realized, okay, we fight with the English, but the English get the spoils of war, that will bring us nowhere. So there was a peace, and Burgundy was de facto independent. That was the third phase of the 100 Years' War, and now the French were on the offensive. They retook the Ile-de-France. The French king could enter Paris, and then they were successful in the north and in the west. The last English try to turn this thing around was an offensive under John Talbot, but he was defeated and Bordeaux surrendered to the French crown. Apart from Calais, France was now free of foreign powers. It was the foundation of the French national state. The 100 Years' War was not a nation war, but now the French nation established itself with growing nationalism. The same happened in England. The English nobility now said their final farewells to their French heritage. This is definitely strengthening of national identity in England. And the 100 Years' War was very important for the Anglo-French tensions in the centuries to come. That was the 100 Years' War in 5.